Right, everyone's, yeah.
Okay, good. Oh, she wasn't sure she was gonna be able to make it. That's excellent. All right.
Not compute.
Hey, I would like to welcome everybody to the November 25th, 2024 City of Idaho Springs regular work session. We have three items on the agenda. I am adding one that we can vote on at a later date, but I'd like to bring council up to speed on. The Mount Blue Sky grant that Commissioner Randy Wheelock has been working on and has submitted. But in the interest of our time of folks here in the audience, I would like first to bring up the Wall Street resident concerns in the 1400 to 1600 block. And residents of Wall Street, welcome. Glad you were able to come and physically be with us. And I want everybody to know, we also have Kate Collier, who's on city council. She's online with us tonight and recovering, so she's not able to be here in person. But this is the second time that she has participated with us online, and so far it's worked very well. So feel free to ask questions of her also. And Andy and Dylan, we've got some good handouts for council. There were some excellent maps and issues that were brought out. That wall, I appreciate the close-up photo that we got showing the deterioration in the wall. And that is actually a piece of wall that we own. So as we all know, the owner of the property is responsible for the wall. And that's been a very long-standing issue and rule here within Idaho Springs just forever. So we are looking at probably getting a contractor to go assess that wall. And it's unfortunate because yeah,
Okay.
because it's historic. I don't know if that wall is repairable in a historic fashion, or if, you know, we're gonna end up pouring another steel reinforced wall against this wall. A second big issue that was raised is this trail that comes down. And I guess it's been there for a very long time. However, it crosses private property. And please, Kim.
It didn't originally come over to the private property. It used to zigzag down.
Oh,
It was modified at some yard.
okay. All right. Did not know that. Because today it's pretty apparent where it's got this wide swath that goes behind that one house and then comes back to city property. All right, so that's good to know. I was just seeing it. It's kind of faint. No, there
Oh,
it
there
is.
it is.
Yeah.
So the sidewalk is private?
GPS signal lost.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's when it goes to the right of the red
Yeah,
line,
it's
that's when it
approximately
crosses
to the
on.
right of that line is where it crosses on
The sidewalk is public, isn't it?
Yeah, the sidewalk is certainly part of the right of way. I don't know precisely where property line is. It's, you know, we don't have like I couldn't find a survey when I was looking through it, so this is an approximation, but most of the brush, but a little bit to the east is probably in the right of way, because the right of way does go all the way up to Wall Street, you know, into the north end of Wall Street.
So is the broken, if I'm looking at it right, the broken piece of the wall over to the left of that line, you can kind of see it up
Yeah,
there?
that's ours.
So if that is ours, is there a way to do a trail? Because everybody that I've talked to on Wall Street likes having that ability to come down there. I mean, if we're gonna fix that wall, can we do something, you know, to give them a pathway down?
Well, to be honest, this is something I know for a fact we've never looked at.
What,
Yeah, I didn't know until Kim just brought this up that it didn't go on to private property.
if we look at in the packet, the timeline. Was anybody here on council in 2018, like Wall Street annexation and Wall Street repairs?
Well, I can tell you, I was on council, I know I was when John Bardoni was talking about this issue. In fact, he said, really not even joking, like the only way to make that road to a modern standard would be to have an off ramp at I-7. I mean, just because it's so steep. But I'm saying, so I specifically remember him talking about this, and the road was in better shape. You know, it didn't have the deep rut that it has in it
Because it
today.
says here in September of 2021, he requested stop signs. So we've talked about this, stop signs.
We
four-way
have,
stop.
and I'm gonna tell you, it's been too many years. I was on council and I
Oh,
don't,
no,
because John Bardoni actually was not a fan of stop signs anywhere in the city.
So for the
So
fact that,
I just don't remember that. I would actually have to look at the tape.
but we have talked about that just from a traffic pattern standpoint, that stop signs, four-way stop signs at Colorado and 16th is not a bad idea. Like irrespective of Wall Street, we have talked about that from a traffic pattern standpoint. That might be something good because there's a stop sign at 8, stop sign at 13, and then where's our next four? I don't think we have another four-way stop. Makes it really difficult for people who are using either Virginia or maybe Center to get out onto Colorado without at least a couple of four-way stops in town.
So Lisa, just so you know, and all council, we get requests for stop signs at almost every single solitary street. In fact, when we just had the business and community promotion at Yards Tap House, I was asked to have a stop sign there because there's nothing to break up the speeders, you know, as they race down. And we paid, I don't know, I want to say we paid like 28 grand for a traffic study to help us with this.
And what did the traffic study say?
It said don't have any stop signs. We actually went against that when we put them down there at 8. That was the one and only exception. So I just want you to know, we did pay for experts in this field and they didn't want any at all. And
Do they live here? I mean, I actually
Well,
like
I-
having a stop sign.
I know, but I'm saying this is a company that helps hundreds of cities with this exact problem.
I'm looking also from a standpoint of, we've had this request from people downtown, because that's a place where people cross from the downtown business area. But I also think it would help with our challenges on Wall Street.
Well, it would, there's no doubt about it. But just be prepared. We will have good reason to have a stop sign at CRC Park, for example, where you've got people, families with children crossing Colorado Boulevard. This is not going to be one stop sign. So I'm just letting council know.
I actually don't mind that. I think people drive too fast through town. I've been probably guilty of it myself. I don't think slowing us down is necessarily a bad thing, even though I'm sure it's gonna be a total drag when 70 is blocked and people come through town.
Well, maybe it'll be a disincentive to come through town. And Scott Pennell, to my right here, mentioned, I think, last meeting that he did not appreciate the speeds that we see on Colorado Boulevard. So anyways, I'm just giving you the pros and cons.
I'd be in favor of one at CRC Park too.
Hey guys, can we get back on the Wall Street topic though?
Yeah, well, Kate, this actually was one of the requests from the community group.
Yeah, I just want to, I'm just trying to steer us back to that. I understand, I mean, stop signs are awesome, but they also do like hinder the traffic as it is right now. As it backs up, it does hinder that. You get more confrontations. On this particular street, going back to the Wall Street, coming into Colorado, off of both of their steep sides, I think that one of the questions last time was whether or not they should switch sides and have it come the opposite direction so that people would be driving west and parking on the right side of the street. Is that still something that the residents want?
Well, Kate, I want you to know, Paul is here with us and, Paul assured us that he would not be able to get his sanding trucks up that street if he were to reverse directions. It takes a running start for them to get up, the current direction. Paul, is that a fair statement?
That is a fair statement. That
Could
grade,
Paul still grade the road the opposite way? I mean, he doesn't have to follow the traffic rules if we have him, you know, whatever you have to do to make it happen, plowing the way that's the best for him, but
that's
letting
true.
the people park the best way for them. I mean, we do this on our Wall Street already. When we have a major snowstorm, there is absolutely no way for you to get a running start to get up and over the hump of the road. Janine and Dylan know this better than anybody. People get stuck there. The city gets stuck there. So we actually park the opposite way. I will drive the opposite way. It's not a one way, but I will drive down the road versus driving up the road. So I think that we can still do the same thing on the other wall if it makes it easier for the residents, and then Paul can still plow the way that he is doing it now.
It also moves the driver's side exit door to the cliff. If a person has to pull as far over to the left of the road as possible to park on Wall Street, which way do they park on Wall Street? I see some cars on both sides.
Yeah,
We're all sitting here.
yeah, they came in, this evening. But my experience is you're normally as close to, the retaining wall where the homes are.
That's very true.
As,
Right.
right?
There's both though, they park on both sides of the street depending on.
Just at the beginning portion between 14 and 15, because there's a little bit of space there that can be parked on that side.
There's not some further-
There's a lot more room there.
I don't actually know it would be better, because your grade is a lot steeper and you also have a very tight turn coming up. So
Yeah.
Yeah, because.
I'm not actually
I think
sure.
that
I've never
way might
driven
be
that
challenging
direction,
for
so I don't
them.
know.
Yeah.
I have, it's very intimidating.
And then there's snow on the road.
You have to rethink it.
To see.
Well, sure.
Can I ask, since all of you are here, if you have somebody that, you know, if you have somebody that would like to make comments, what would you like to see from us? What are you looking for from us?
If I may,
Go ahead, you wanna come?
Yeah.
See,
if you don't mind,
not at all.
I think I can
Just wanna
speak
introduce
for,
yourself for those who don't know you.
hi, I'm Tim, I'm at 1528. I think we'd be interested in a few things. One, we'd like better maintenance of the roadway. We're simply not getting it. There are parts of the roadway that are owned by the city. There are parts of the roadway that are owned by the residents. We very rarely see anything as much as a blade on that road. We'd like that to improve. We also understand that you own 14th and 16th.
Mhm.
Particularly 16th is in disrepair. It has been in absolute horrid shape for the last 2 years, to the extent that we had a ditch in the middle of it. Now, I'm not sure exactly what changed that, but at some point, the city came by and filled in the ditch with, runoff dirt that was in front of the Elks or to the side of the Elks. And that seems to be something that's occurred fairly regularly. Whenever we get rainfall, there's runoff that occurs down that hill that needs to be plowed back up. In this case, this year in particular, it got pretty bad before it was addressed. So I don't know that there's a real way to solve the runoff problem. If there's soil and with the grade of that road, that's probably going to happen. So whatever improvement is made there is probably going to have to not only involve, changing the grade of the road, but also something having to do with the road base and the soil. And certainly 14th isn't in much better shape. So I think that by and large, and please, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the road is the issue. That's the elephant in the room. The stop sign, the direction of the roadway, those things, they're extra.
And the maintenance of the wall.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maintenance of the wall.
And the trail thing, that's also extra as well. I would
Yeah.
say.
I mean, if the maintenance of that wall at 15th, where Kim was kind enough to take the photo and really compile all this information, if that's indicative of imminent failure, that's a problem. I mean, for all the residents on Wall Street. So I think that that's another thing to consider in all this. And perhaps the balance of the wall. You know, if there's some parts of the wall that are owned by the residents of Virginia, for example, as what seems to be indicated on the maps, if there's a failure of that wall, that could be fairly detrimental to not only those residents, but certainly our access, you know, to and from our homes. And so I guess we're looking for better maintenance at the end of the day.
Well,
And a real solution.
we had talked to Paul about paving or getting a real decent surface, at least on that steeper part. And Paul, you have some budget for that? And he was telling us about a nightmarish scenario the last time, and Lord knows, I'm thankful that Paul has been here as many years as he has. But it was like the asphalt roller had to be lowered and drug back up like on a chain because there wasn't a way to control it. The road was so steep, but they got it done. So I'm saying it may not be what we would like, but I think he has a budget to do that. That would solve a lot of this where you have runoff so extreme that it's carving a 10-inch ditch.
For clarity, I mean, I've been involved in multi-million-dollar projects in constructing oil and gas facilities. It can be done.
Oh, it can't.
I mean,
We know it's been done in the past. It's been
I think the
done.
key word was multi-million-dollar projects.
and maybe that's true. For sure.
And we won't be able to take the grade of the road and make the grade better.
Sure.
But we can make the surface better.
So if I remember right, I don't know if you were up there, Lisa, about 3 or 4 years ago, was there a project for that hill that was supposed to help with the drainage of that hill?
Kim, was there a project like 3 or 4 years ago? I don't live up there. Kim, I live on the other Wall Street.
Yeah,
Oh, the other walls.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
JBA did some design, and we all had a good laugh because they had two-way traffic. It was very apparent they never actually went up there.
No.
So that was not a good use of those funds, but, and then John Bardoni asked for it again, the redesign. It's gonna be $8,000 in September of 21, but then that got tabled by council. I'm not sure why.
Kim, didn't you tell me too that at one point the maintenance was pretty good? What were they
Yeah.
doing when they were doing the regular maintenance? Because we've talked about this.
They were grading, I would say, I don't remember the name of the guy who ran the skid steer, but they take up the little Bobcat skid steer. I don't know if those are synonymous. I'm gonna call it a Bobcat. They would bring up the Bobcat and they would smooth out all the potholes, and then they would add dirt, gravel, road base to 16. And they probably did it, I would say, 3 times a year if I had to guess. Maybe once in a while they'd hit it a 4th time, but it was fabulous. It wasn't, I could text John or call in, or I think I even filled out the city website, report a road concern, and it was done usually that week. It was crazy cool. Yeah, but then it just.
So maintenance 3 times a year was keeping this in a much better situation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What would you say the maintenance has been like the last 2 or 3 years then?
Twice.
In the whole 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, once last year and once this year. Horrible.
So that makes it, like, if they were getting it 3 times a year, and it went down to once every year or so, that would mean there's a lot of repair that doesn't get addressed.
And when they did it, they did a complete job, like the whole road, all the potholes, everything. But yeah, 14th has just gotten really bad with that edge. And I'm sorry, Tim, actually, I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody, but I kind of pictured this being more like, hey, we'd like to deed the road to you guys since you've maintained it, you have the water and sewer in it. Let's have that be your road. Great, it's your road. Awesome. So there's a road bond. Everyone else has got new water and sewer line. We were graded an F, we'd like new water and sewer lines, put in Wall Street, please. And then after that's done, then let's talk about grading. That's kind of the sequence of events that I had pictured.
I'm just leveling with you. The
Yeah.
worst thing I can do is mislead you.
Yeah.
And we only, we raise about $975,000 every year, with a 1%, street maintenance
Mhm.
fund. And we have other horrible roads. And by the way, I want you to know, every town, every city is in this situation. Things that we knew were gonna cost us $4 or $5 million are costing us $9 and $10 million. And in order to redo that, I think for these 9 houses, we're probably in the millions. I would go out
For
on a limb
keeping
and.
up with maintenance though, for just doing maintenance with?
Well,
them?
that's why I'm suggesting, Paul has a budget to do an overlay, which is not the same thing as rebuilding the road, where you would want new sewer, new water lines, but before you go in with rebuilding the road, which as I'm saying, I think would be in the millions, for just a couple of blocks.
That was the plan back in 2016 when the roads were graded and we were given an F. The current mayor and the current council acknowledged that rating and said that we were in the top 3 to get done. And then once they did Minor Street or Colorado, it messed up some of the other streets with the heavy equipment, and then we got bumped. And we kept getting bumped, and then Virginia bumped us. And I feel like that money, the road bond, was brought to fix these roads. We're an F. It's a horrible road, I understand that. But I think it's a responsibility of the city to hold up their end. We pay our taxes to the bond. And that sewer, do you remember the sewers leaked down through the wall at 15th into Karen's property? That happened 2 or 3 times. It's in really bad repair. I'd like that to be acknowledged and addressed, not just cost too much. Well, you know, it's gonna cost more tomorrow. This is the cheapest it's gonna get.
But we don't have tens of millions
Do
of
you have an
dollars to
estimate?
fix
Do you
these
know that
streets.
that's what it's gonna cost?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
For all these other D and F, yeah, absolutely. Sure. Virginia Canyon is, I was literally talking to our financial analyst. It was probably as cheap as buying out the houses. I mean, that's how horrible this is.
Okay, well, let's
But,
get
but
started.
believe me, my heart goes out to you.
Mhm.
But we are literally talking tens of millions to take care of our very worst streets. I'm just, the worst thing I could do is mislead you.
So,
But in 2016, this money that you're talking also was several other streets that still aren't done. There are still a couple on the list.
right.
And I'll give you, this is an F. It's an F for 9 addresses. And I'm sure, and Paul, ballparkish, but we gotta be talking a couple $1 million.
At least.
I think it depends on how you do it.
And it eventually has to be
It
done
doesn't
anyways, right? Matter how we do it, it depends on what the contractor's going to bid on this.
I think we'd settle for just an occasional grading collar.
Well, and that's why I'm saying perhaps this overlay, which is an asphalt, application, albeit challenging and expensive, I think makes your road surface a lot better for a long time.
But you're gonna lay
Can
over
I,
pipes,
Yeah, Kate.
Yeah.
with water and sewer.
can I?
We just did it in Montaigne Park, all the way up. That needs to be rebuilt. We knew it was gonna be years before we had the money to rebuild it. If you go up there, you'll see that we had Foothills paving. Go up there and just resurface the whole road, right over the old lines that we know are gonna have to be replaced.
Kate,
Oh, sorry, Kate, please.
It's okay. So 2 things. There's 2 problems. We're talking about the overlay. So Kim, just for your info, I was against the overlay on East Wall because I mean our road is also an F. It's no longer an F because of the overlay that again I wasn't for because I thought it was a waste of money. But I think it's been down at least 3 years and it has vastly improved that road for us. Again, it is not by any means down to the, taking everything out, putting new sewer lines, new whatever lines need to be down there. We did not do any of that. It's just an overlay, but it has improved that road like beyond what we could have expected. The other thing is that along this whole conversation, there's the way bigger issue of the retaining walls in general. And your road happens to be one of the most affected by the retaining walls. I think the big conversation is let's get to a place where we can compromise on how you guys feel comfortable with the road grade going into the future. But we have to come back as a council and talk about how are we going to tackle these retaining walls that are either privately owned, which means that that property owner can do whatever they want to retain the road, which is Wall Street West, and we don't have any say in the matter. I mean, obviously we have some say, but truly whatever engineering firm they get, they can do it, and it can be a patchwork design back there, where I think that we have to look at it as a full unit to keep that road intact for as long as possible.
Yep,
That's all I say.
I agree with Kate. It's been longstanding in the city. The property owner has the liability of holding our road up. And like Kate said, there may be 5 different ways to rebuild that wall. And the city isn't the one at the table doing it. So I don't like it. But I will tell you that this repair here, this is our 40 feet. We're the owner, we're liable. We're going to take care of this, I can tell you.
If a homeowner is liable to fix the road
Yes.
on what they own, right?
And I just, I'm not splitting hairs, but I just want you to know, they're liable for the retaining wall that holds our road up. And that's the part I don't like. And it's been this way for forever in the city.
So it's just the wall, not the road.
No. So I just want you to know, they're not responsible for the road, but the wall, as we all know, holds the road in place.
And that's not just
So
you saying that, that's our attorney saying that. right?
Yeah.
That- Just make that
I
clear.
There's a section in chapter 13 of our municipal code that
Yep.
states the maintenance, repair and replacement of all retaining walls existing on, abutting or adjacent to city streets and right of ways shall be the obligation of the owners of the property abutting such streets and right of ways. So it's codified there. Just remember that.
If an owner's responsible for fixing the road, how long do they have to fix that road? How much time?
Not the road, the retaining wall, right?
Or the retaining?
Yeah.
How long would it take, how long do we give that owner? time
What
to
have
fix
we
it?
given,
And I'm
90
just
days
wondering,
or
It
something?
depends on the extent of the problem. I mean, if it's a
It's a really bad
failure
problem.
that's progressing,
'Cause
but
I-
not affecting the road directly, immediately, but if it was a catastrophic failure, it'd have to be done right away.
Okay, because I want to fully answer that question, because this gets really important. Because you could have an owner that doesn't have the financial ability to fix that. Or as Andy is alluding to, it's so catastrophic, we, it's stopping traffic. We've got to do an emergency repair right now. I just wanna, because I think I'm right on this. I think what happens is the city does what we have to do to make the road safe. And even if the owner didn't have the money, it then becomes a lien against that property. Is that correct?
We do have. So let's just say 3 or 4 months?
Well, just as soon as, if it wasn't practical for the owner, then the city would go ahead and take it on.
So
To
let's
get it
say
done in-
6 months to a year?
Well, it'd
But
be
it also sounds
situational.
like there has to be a little
It's
road
situational.
too.
The reason I'm saying this, let's look at it like this. If they would have said yes, a year, they have a year to fix it, right? If something's wrong and they're giving us a year to fix our property, they have a piece of property that needs to be fixed and it needs to get fixed in the same amount of time.
Well, I'll give you an example. Just behind my house, the wall gave way. The owner did fix it. And it was a pretty reasonable time. I want to say 30 days. But the road was really down to 1 lane at that point. The reason why I bring this up, I don't even feel you have, if you lost a section of wall, you wouldn't even have a lane. You very well may not. You might not be able to have vehicular traffic there. If that were the case, and if it were our wall like this one right here, you would see us doing an emergency repair. It wouldn't be some year. I mean, Paul is better equipped to answer this as far as time goes.
I think it could be upwards of a year. If we had a catastrophic failure up there, we would look at the stabilization of the entire roadway because of one portion of catastrophic failure, rather than trying to just patch or, Band-Aid a problem there. So,
All right, these people, they wouldn't even be able to drive up to their houses.
and
I
the
mean,
time
and
it would
I
take,
could-
yeah,
And a catastrophic failure.
correct.
Mayor, I think that the crux of the question, if I'm getting this, when are we going to fix that wall?
Atta girl.
I
Well,
believe is the question being
Yes.
asked.
well, and I'm glad that the property owners are here because we just looked into the liability and where this was at. And, this is ours.
Yeah.
So as far as a frame,
Within the next 6 months.
So I guess, all right, before we get too far in the weeds here, since we have to fix our section of the wall, which makes sense. And I think we can all agree that we probably should pave Wall Street in the short term, right?
yes,
And then 14th to 16th, that makes sense?
yes.
But that brings us full circle, right? So we stabilize the wall, it's our responsibility, we're properly get the walls fixed. We pave the street, which fixes literally the erosion that goes into the recycled asphalt. If you have a picture, you can see what's doing. But that brings us full circle back to if the intent, really going back to what 92, was the annex was to make that street a city street. I think we need to get back on that and make that happen because I also live on Wall Street officially on the other end, and my house was annexed during that same conversation. Part of that, it was out of city limits, now it's city limits, and I also have walls. So I think that's a big thing is, look, how do we move forward with making that street a city street and whatever that requires? And that also solves part of our problem, because right now, technically, we're doing maintenance on private property, which is wonky in a legal perspective. Keep in mind that you have two sections of Wall Street that are actually owned by the city. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the map. We've got. So you own bits and pieces. 16th we own in front of two houses that at some point have been transferred over. But we don't own in its entirety, which I think is in our best interest also.
And we're thankful everybody signed that letter. I mean, it's obvious that everyone's in agreement. If the city were to frankly take ownership of the street.
I think that's what we want.
Yep.
Strange that it hasn't happened before.
Well, I think there's a lot of carryover stuff from like 1903, 1904. This is like one of those.
Soda Creek Road.
Yeah, Soda Creek has some issues. If you get into like even 1938 city mapping, there's anomalies throughout town that were private roads that were installed at the turn of the century, never became a city street. Even though they've been used as a city street for now well over 150 years, they're still in limbo. So I think there's more than this, your section that needs to be cleaned up still, probably if we get into the details of it. This has happened to be the one before us now that makes sense to continue that process. And then to Kate's right, the resurfacing of Wall Street on that end, while it was expensive, did improve the road surface there. And I think we do the same thing for this section.
I also have to say, I wasn't sure if that was going to improve or not, as somebody lived over there, and it did improve it.
And
It also melts off faster, we found
Yes, it
out.
does.
So we don't retain snow and ice on that section of the street like we used to. I think it'll make the same difference here, compared to the dirt surface that we currently have. But
I
think,
agree, Jeremy. Yeah.
They resurface, you mean just do like an asphalt layer?
Yeah.
Asphalt? Okay.
yeah, fix it.
It's a very thick asphalt layer.
Paul was a 4-inch or something.
It'll probably be about 4 inches and, if I can get up to 10 feet wide, I'll get up to 10 feet wide. We only really have one lane up there, but we'll work with what's up there, with the walls, the utilities, the lower walls. There's still some thought that need to go back into it, whether I try to put a roll curb on that south side to keep water going down 16th or let water roll off. So we have a few things to look at there, but it'll be a project that we get done this summer.
So do we want to move forward with them leading the right way to us?
Yeah, I think that's the responsible thing to do at this point. So we take ownership and it's formalized. I believe I saw 8 signatures on that letter. Am I right? Are we missing anybody is my question.
There's actually 10.
Oh, okay, well, then that's everybody.
Yeah.
All right,
Was that everybody?
Everybody who lives on Wall Street.
okay.
I did not speak to folks on Virginia.
How about 1600? I guess he's 1600. He's 16. It's the little greenhouse that's falling off the road. Or falling off the hill.
No, that's Rick Scott. So it goes Rick Scott and then City of Idaho Springs.
below Rick Scott.
Yep, they just have their own little driveway. Everything in the 16th roadway, either City of Idaho Springs.
Oh, he
or
is right
South.
on the 16, okay.
Yeah.
He is. So I think, and the other thing is, I asked Paul, I know it's late in the year, but after this next storm, it's possible to get some of the damage fixed now so we can at least survive the winter. Sure, if you haven't done it yet, just to, so as we plow, we can survive the winter, because I think the goal is to plow, is to pave in the spring when weather improves, when the ground isn't frozen, because otherwise it's counterproductive. Just do what we can, I guess, to get it usable to get us to that stage, is kind of what I'm looking at it. Thank you.
And Paul, my question to you would be, do you have equipment that suits you to maintain that road, or is there anything, we talked about supplying you with equipment?
Honestly, there isn't a piece of equipment that's great for there. So the perfect piece of equipment is a motor grader, but a motor grader won't fit up there. So we use flat edge like the water buckets. And they work, but to an extent, they're not good at actually creating the road. All we do is kind of smooth it out.
But winter maintenance, you have what you
We
need.
can get that done.
So, correct me if I'm like stepping on, what is our timeline for doing an official legal transfer of this? So that,
6 months.
It'll take a little bit of time.
We gotta have a
Individual
pretty
property
extensive,
owners.
surveys, to go with that, so.
It's a survey, it's, getting documents, it's probably, but yes, we can start on that.
And I still think we ought to be able to do the overlay, even without that.
I think the overlay, I don't think it should hold up the overlay, I think that's, the end goal is we wanna.
I mean, everything that's important to you as
Right.
far as doing some emergency kind of repairs to get to the winter. And putting that overlay down, even if we don't officially own it, we can still do it. Right? I mean, if everybody's in agreement, then we don't have to wait on a survey and official deeds.
Correct.
I don't think you'd find a homeowner in disagreement.
Right.
We were just gonna ask permission later.
Well, I know,
I'll probably ask you, We'd settle for for anything. 2 days, but.
yeah. And Paul, you were already gonna be talking to AFAS Patch and others about, getting a quote on that.
I already had, and that it was after some other work we had done in town, and it was just getting late in the season and some of their schedules, some of the paper schedules. I didn't think we weren't gonna beat the weather, so there wasn't a chance of getting this done this year.
Yeah.
But once the ground starts thawing out, we'll be able to pave that. I'll work with at least work with Hank. I don't know if the work will go to Hank, but we may want to consider that when we put something like that out for bid, because it's gonna be sizable. It's gonna be something in the $200,000 range to pave that road.
Now, when, me and Kim, 1420 and 1414, we have like those spots off of the right side.
Right.
Would you guys like, we get those paved too, like that section, or would that
We
be
could
our
measure
responsibility?
that out separately if you guys want that paved, because I know that is private property and
Okay.
private parking.
But it's still a good time to do
I
it.
don't know, I would love to.
We could
I would love
definitely
to.
give you
Get your work on that, yeah, that'd be hard, thank you.
It's done, I think.
Yeah,
That would be, yeah, let's do that.
because they mobilized, they got everything up there. Even if you pay for just your private part, it's still, I promise that's gonna be a big discount compared to having people get mobilized and just do your specific area by itself.
I'm just thinking of the size, you're probably looking something in the $4,000 range. That's cool with that.
I have a small cutout next to my place as well, but kind of on the left hand side.
I don't know which one's yours.
Right on the top of 15th Street. It's a yellow house with a little cutout on the left. And so I would be willing to pay for the intersection. I don't know if that's considered part of the.
We'll see what we can do up there, and if we're talking a thin ribbons or something, that's probably something that we can just get done, just for the width of the road.
Paul, do you have any concerns with the weight of the equipment for the paving? Is it equal out to all the cars we have there? Is there any issue?
So, what we're not gonna see is we're not going to see the heavy trucks and tandems up there. Everything's gonna be hauled in with a skid steer. We're not gonna be able to get a paver up there.
Right.
It's gonna be all done with a skid steer. It's the only way to get it done up there.
Perfect.
All right, anything further that
The only other
staff?
thing I could say, as far as the assessment of the wall, I think we can get that going pretty quickly with
Yeah.
our city engineer.
Right,
And a trail?
well, let's tackle these very pressing matters right now.
Okay.
I want to make these items a front burner, item.
The trail could go in later.
Well,
Steps
I'm not
later.
saying, okay, I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver,
Right.
so for right now, let's look at repairing this hole in the wall, getting an overlay, down.
Okay.
And some emergency type of, fill work, I wouldn't even call it, it's more, pre-winter, type maintenance to get you through. And as far as the surveying and, deeds to the city, that, we won't have that holding us up. We're just gonna press forward with these matters.
Thank you.
Although, admittedly, you're going to be inconvenienced for a little while, just while that maintenance is being done. I mean, it's understandable.
Mhm.
You might have to walk up the hill or something. I don't know, Paul.
During pavement, yeah, it'd be just a day and just a few hours at that. So, the hours that we're actually working up there and putting asphalt down will be,
All right.
we've actually cleared all the cars and, but we'll let you know when that's coming through. And if you forget, we'll definitely let you know when you smell the asphalt.
Yeah. All right.
Is drainage what caused that damage or?
It is for 16th Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the water runoff and it was, it really took a beating in the spring. With that March snow, April snow that we had, and then, it was man hours that we just didn't have at the time when we were trying to get to it and, we'd finally make it to it. And like, Kim had said, we've only gotten to it about once this year. Previous years, we've done a lot better with it. Some years, not so much. There's other years we've only had, one day of maintenance up there before. It's just this year, lack of maintenance and weather kind of at the same time.
We also have density issue because there's recycled asphalt in there. Is there any
Yeah.
other areas
So we
of
look for-
concern on the wall? My question, is there any other areas that would be of concern right now
Where?
in the entire wall? If there's any other areas that might be of concern.
If I may make a suggestion, it may be worth getting a civil engineer to take a look.
Yeah, I think we're
before you-
That's what I'm wondering, to get a whole
To make
picture of the
sure
whole
you've got
wall.
a good thing going before you.
We can ask somebody to inspect the private walls all day long. How far do you want to go with that? Do you want to force a homeowner to make repairs? If a engineer comes out and says it's not structurally stable. Or, you want the engineer to tell somebody that they have to fix their wall that's been standing for 150 years because doesn't meet current code or.
I think we just have a visual inspection of it right now, just to see if there's anything that looks suspicious, and if that looks suspicious, then maybe we consider getting a professional look at it.
Sure.
I would just say, I would rather know.
If the engineer's coming out anyway, why wouldn't we have them, with permission, of course, look at the walls that are standing so that we have an idea of what we're up against in the future? It seems like this would be a good time to kind of assess that wall altogether. It could be something that we do as a courtesy to the residents that are in charge of those retaining walls.
Yeah, if we have the homeowner's, permission, I don't see any problem with that.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, anything, further from council?
I just asked, does that, where we're going make sense to you guys?
Yes.
I don't want to have you leave the meeting going, man, we got nothing done. Thanks for purposely coming down.
All right,
Is that the only drainage area that you know of that's a problem up there? Is there other drainage areas?
Well, we don't want the drainage going over to the south of that street. We try and keep it onto the street.
You want to keep it
And it'll be the
on
same goal when we pave that, is to try and keep that water running down the street, sheeting to 15th or 16th Avenues. Right now with it being dirt, it kind of absorbs more than it runs, but you do get those heavy, the snows that add a lot of water very quickly. And then it runs. So we'll have to take some things into consideration by putting down that pseudo impervious material and asphalt. Now we're creating other water issues and drainage issues, so we have to take that into account.
All right.
Excuse me.
Well, I want to thank everybody for, oh, yes, go ahead.
Does this overlay project also include 16?
Yes,
Okay.
Just
making
down
sure.
the hill.
that's always been the thorn in the side for paving because it's too steep to run rollers on. So how do you compact the asphalt once you lay asphalt on there? If you don't compact it, it's just going to slough off with cars. To compact it, you need a roller, but the roller doesn't have enough traction and it'll just slide with the asphalt right down the hill. So it's definitely a challenge. It can be done. It's just a challenge.
All right, yes,
My last question is that once we deed over the road to the city, that retaining wall would then be the city's responsibility as well, is that correct?
no.
No.
We have roads all over, the city and the wall is owned by the property owner. And this, herein lies the problem, because I'm saying conservatively, there's many millions of dollars of extra maintenance that, again, no city has if we take over the walls. But to Kate Coyer's point, the way we do it right now, I disagree with. I don't like having the property owners responsible for that. And then they pick their engineer and their repair method. It's hodgepodge. I mean, you know, there's just something basic about city roads being maintained by the city. So this has been this way in the city for like a gazillion years. I mean, just forever. And I'm afraid, you know, a lot of these walls weren't even built with concrete, or there certainly isn't any in there now. You know, and it's a significant problem, very significant. So anyways, long-winded answer to your question, it will still, at least right now, rest with the property owner.
My next question would be is how do we go about fixing that, but I'm not trying to get into that can of worms, right?
Yeah, that's gonna be many hours of deliberation and how do we fix it, how do we fund it? Cause trust me, we turn to DOLA and other grant opportunities at every single turn. And all of these have matches. I mean, even if you're given an $8 million, you have an $8 million project, say to do Virginia Canyon. You know, we got $1 million grant. You know, it is very underwhelming, the amount of help that's out there for some of these big projects. The water line replacement for this city is coming in at about $10 million. We got a $1 million grant.
On Virginia. On Virginia Canyon.
We only have one line for the whole city.
Yeah.
It's beyond its life expectancy. I apologize for getting off on this tangent, but I'm just illustrating how underwhelming government money is. So they're willing to help us on this $10 million water line replacement. And we got a $1 million grant.
And where some of our other priorities, where some of the money gets prioritized, the main transmission line coming down 103, without that line, no one in town has water.
Yep.
So it kind of takes priority. It goes to, you know, we have a Montaigne water tank that needs to be replaced. Absolutely, it was mandated that it be replaced by the state. And so that was a little unexpected, and we've been scrambling to put something together for that we've had to go to. So, you know, everybody keeps getting kicked a little bit further down the road when we have to go for these other projects.
And we took in $4.5 million in sales tax last year, which was a record for us. We can only hope that it holds up and we don't have any kind of a recession or other type of a financial setback. But I mean, that was even in the face of record sales tax. It is very paltry compared to the needs of all of these roads, these retaining walls, the water line. I mean, it's daunting, but I want you to know, for you, we truly are doing everything that we can. It is a very difficult challenge and the allocation of resources and the most pressing needs. Do we roll the dice, say, and not do a water line, and we have a catastrophic break and literally nobody in the city can flush a toilet? I mean, these are the kind of tough decisions that we have to look at. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming in. we definitely have some front burner items that we can get done for you. And, I think, you know, I wish we could all have been here 150 years ago and not run a grade like that on a road, because as you know, we would never allow houses on a street like that. And, so we're gonna do the best that we can with what we have to work with. But, I think fixing that, retaining wall portion that the city owns, that overlay, and doing some, maintenance to get you through the winter, will be a good step in the right direction.
Thank you. Thank you.
So thanks a lot for coming in. That meant a lot that all of you gave
Yes,
me your
thank you very
evening
much.
to come in and speak with us.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having us. All right, and you're all willing, I'm sorry, you all are very much, encouraged to stay if you would like. Next up, we are going to talk, sewer lines on Idaho Street. And Kim, I think you're actually affected by one.
I'm gonna stay.
And thank goodness, because Paul is back front and center on this one as well. Paul, thank you for the report and for getting the bids on this. To give credit where credit is due, Paul was thinking this was gonna be like 22 grand, and he was pretty doggone close. He was like within 10% on that. And Paul, if you would like to speak to this.
Sure, so it's with the field house coming into, they want to upsize the line between 10th and 11th to help facilitate sewer flow for the new apartments in there. And in doing that, they're going to pass by these homes that have a shared common service that's separate from our current main that runs down the same area. This price is just the price for the services for 5 homes. They have them at about $4,400 a piece. And this, what I'm asking is if the city would pick up this portion of that project, as they are, they're really outside the scope of this project. They're on a totally separate line. It's not really impacted by what the field house project's doing. What we're trying to do is bring these individual homes that are on a common service to the main instead, and a good main and a more modern main. It may have to do a little reconfiguring in there, but it's really nothing different than we've done on our other projects, Colorado Boulevard, Minor Street. We've replaced the sewer lines to a main, to the property lines. There's almost no distance between property line and sewer main here.
Yeah, as you can see on the map, the road is like literally coming against the side of your house almost.
Yeah.
The other thing too, I think, we would want to recognize, these people wouldn't be in this predicament right now. Now, it's been a rat's nest over there, right? With the way the lines are, like joined together. We can argue whose fault it is. Was it the neighbor that's upstream or the second one up? You know, these kind of issues. But, frankly, it's been that way for 100 years, and this would not have come to a head had it not been for this new development. So, they're upsizing the line in the road, and this is just a good time to clear up this rat's nest. And, I think the way we're trying to do it fixes the bulk of the problem without necessarily the homeowner incurring, some type of a cost.
Well, I mean, only other option is to leave it the way it is. That's the other option.
That is the other option.
Which then it's gonna the road's getting resurfaced and.
Correct.
So if there were a problem that we had to fix, we would have to tear up the road that we just resurfaced
We wouldn't have to fix it private main.
privately.
But this comes back.
Common service, so it's private main, common service. They all share a service line, is the way it is, because we have an established main in that railroad right of way. And then most of those houses are on a totally separate line, not tied into that main.
So that's owned by them?
Yes, because every point of that starts at a house. There's no upstream manhole on there, so there's no point A and point B of a main, so they do end up in a manhole. But that's it, that's the only access to get to some of those.
And I mean, it doesn't matter, but how does that even happen in the first place?
There's still a service line that runs through another person's basement here in town, over there in that same area. They run from Minor Street back to Center Alley, and that sewer main from house on Minor Street runs through the basement of the house that's on the corner of Center Alley on that same avenue. It's just how these folks did things back in the day.
1930 was a great year.
Yeah, and please keep in mind, we had absolutely no permitting process.
There's
I
no
mean-
oversight back then.
You know, yeah, you and your niece could cobble together whatever you wanted on the weekend or something. I mean, literally, you know, it's
Buy the public works director a beer and, you know, you do whatever you want.
right.
I mean, are we talking all the way back to when those houses were developed?
Oh,
or
I don't
something?
think that would be unreasonable. You know, I think Paul had mentioned that these were like the old clay pipe that came in sections. You know, like a lot of
Yeah,
our
that's-
old Victorian houses, or is that correct, Paul?
There's a section that looks like a point repair was done in. And that's PVC, but for the bulk of it, it is clay.
I think though, this discussion and the previous discussion kind of emphasized, I think one of the things we'll have to start budgeting for is just when things go afoul in our city, because we didn't have building codes, we didn't have standards, we didn't have don't go through your neighbor's basement. I mean, it just, things happened, and I think that may be just a budget line item.
We're
It's just gonna
taking
happen.
care of more and more of these things with these projects that we are doing. Virginia Street, Virginia Canyon,
I would agree
all
with
of
you.
Colorado Boulevard, Minor Street. We took care, there was, the rat's nest in Colorado Boulevard was an even scarier perspective than this one. This is small and localized and it's something that is easy to take care of. I mean, the rest of Colorado Boulevard, we had service lines that ran half the length of the block to hit a manhole at one of the avenues. We got rid of all that. We put a proper main in the street. We did the same thing on the,
No, I think I'm not saying I think it's a good thing. I just think we have to look at this as just gonna be part of doing things
And-
because the city is such a rat's nest in so many different infrastructure
And
ways.
Lisa, I just want to emphasize, all we can do are tiny little micro baby steps every time. I mean, none of us in this room will live long enough. Even the youngest of us will live long enough for all of this. There isn't enough money. You know, we could have sales tax at 20%, to try to do all of this.
yeah, we bring those improvements and those corrections into every project that we do. We try and make those corrections to the things that aren't up to standard. They still won't be by the time we're finished, but they'll be closer to standard.
Yeah.
Because we can't change the entire line, we can only change the portion that's in our roadway. And, there's standards today of 5-foot separation. Some of these houses didn't have that type of separation between the water and the sewer line. They were in the same hole, in the same trench. And that's kind of where they kind of get left because we can't change the entire infrastructure. We can only do what we can do.
No, I think that's good. I hadn't been thinking about that in terms of when we're doing projects, we also have to look at the houses or the businesses around and how do we upgrade things for them and, I think if you haven't, like me, been thinking about that, that's somewhere we need to go.
But we do
Good,
on every project.
good.
That's why some of these plans take so long to get through.
So, if I may, council, would you be all right with the city paying this $24,000 quote that Paul has solicited from one of the contractors? Lisa, I'll start with you.
I think so.
Okay, Scott? Yes. Jeremy?
Yeah, no issue.
Janine?
Yeah.
All right, then it's unanimous.
Kate?
Oh, sorry, Kate, I am sorry.
I'm
All
still
right.
here. Yeah, me too.
Okay, so it is unanimous. And Kim, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
I did, so I read the letter and I can't quite tell, are you doing the connection to the main for the homes just in the right of way, or where, how will
We're
that?
gonna
be
try to
solved?
get to all of them. I don't know exactly, because I haven't located the line, I've just cameraed the line, so I can speculate on where the line is running based on where a clean out is, so that gives me a point of reference.
Right.
And where some of these other lines of camera kind of take off from inside the pipe. So it's going in this direction, it's going in this direction. I can make some assumptions. There's one house that I'm unsure of. I think it was 1019.
Yeah.
That I think they might share a service with the house next door to the east.
Right, I share that with Erica. Yeah, we share a line. So I guess my question is, I know, myself and Josh Spinner said that if they open up the sewer line, put in the new main, and the city is only going to improve the line so far, then we'd be interested in knowing the time frame and then put in additional, new lines to our homes. So how far are you going? Are you going to our homes?
Well,
With this bid, do you know?
definitely the stuff on the south side, we're gonna end up replacing everything as probably as near to the foundation as the excavator's gonna feel comfortable.
Gotcha, okay,
There's just no room over there.
right. Yeah,
And the stuff to the north, there's the one shared line or one suspected share line or confirmed. And that might be a little trickier on where those lie. So if they're more into the right of way than the property line, we'll definitely make some separations there. But we'll replace as much as we can within the right of way. And the good thing is the right of way takes up a good portion of everybody's backyards there.
that's true.
There's a lot of encroachment.
Mhm.
And no one's gonna come after the encroachment. It's just, I think we can get a good portion of those. There might be short sections that don't get replaced. The house, I think, is 1027 at the very end. Might have a long section of, in their backyard that doesn't get replaced, but, we'll replace up to that, at least that property line there.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
All right, well, thank you, council. We will move on to the,
I have-
yes, Paul.
One caveat to this, I was in the council meeting and I'm asking for this to be approved. But this work will not be done until 2025. Do I table this ask until 2025 in the spring when they're anticipating this work? Or do we set the funding aside now to pay them either before or
I
after?
think we can approve this tonight.
We set the funding aside.
We just need direction from
Yeah.
council and we can.
Yeah.
That seems good.
So we're good. We have
Then we're gonna do it.
we have unanimous direction from council and we'll set the money aside for next year.
Okay,
And this bid doesn't go up with inflation, it's. not good.
these were bid prices that I was using in this. This is what,
It's in our public works department.
So do we only get one bid? I'm sorry to jump in.
for the work that's being done in the street, yes, that's what we're working with is, another person's contractor. They've already bid this project and these prices for these lines. If you want to replace your entire line up to the main, that's certainly, something you can do. You can find your
No, I was just talking the
contractor.
city's money. I mean,
City.
we're paying for it. Why are we only?
Oh, no, often we'll get multiple bids. The issue here is this, 4 Points funding that's putting in the 119 units.
Mhm.
They're paying for this, line upgrade that's going on the diagonal behind these houses.
Okay, so they're paying for the whole thing.
Right,
This
this
is their
is,
money, not ours.
Well,
Yes,
it's the cities.
The 24,000.
Let's back up 4 steps here. So because the development is replacing the main, which is the biggest expense involved, all we're doing is we're piggybacking on that project using the same contractor.
Exactly.
To say, well, you have the hole open. We wanted you to put pipe from the main to the house, what would it cost us? Give us a price. So that's why we didn't go out to bid. We're kind of taking advantage of a situation of basically 4 Points is paying 90% of the expense. We're paying for a section of pipe while the hole's open. So it's kind of our advantage. It saves us a ton of money.
And I will say,
Good question.
this is, pretty close to ballpark. Paul had guessed this within like 10%. So
I was just wondering who was a specialist that knew what the ballpark was.
He ballparked it at 20,000, it came in at 22, so. For once, it was actually pretty close, because all the prices have been changing in the last 3 years, it's kind of been a game with
I
contracts.
just got used to the high prices on everything, so.
Yeah.
When I ballpark, I don't even try and lowball anymore. It's just,
high end.
But
Hopefully
it's your point well taken is.
Yeah.
This was a unique situation. Their contractor was there. He has the ditch open. It would be kind of hard pressed to get another contractor to get in there, work with that contractor while he's got it open and doing that work, I think.
I'm sure.
Hopefully it fixes a huge problem.
Yeah. All right, well, apologize, we're running over in the work session. I'm gonna, move the Mount Blue Sky under, the mayor's, portion of our regular meeting.
Okay.
And, I'd like to bring up the last one, which I believe is probably, in my opinion, the least controversial of what we had to tackle tonight. And I am very grateful that Kate was able to make this, because I don't mind telling you, I have very much want to tap her on the shoulder about this. Kate was on planning for 16 years. Lisa, I know you were on planning as well. You've seen my report. How do you feel about planning commission and variance board being merged? I'd really like to get your opinion on this.
So, I've been thinking about this a lot, and back when I was on planning commission, we just had a different set of rules. Just for the record, guys, it seemed like we were reporting to council a lot more. We had a regular report to council that came from, at that point in time, it was, I can't remember the guy's name, but Alan was one of those guys, and Tim would come to council and give a full review of what what planning commission had been doing for the last 3 months. So right now that's not happening for with planning to our council. So adding on to their not only responsibility, but their power, if there's any other word for it, let me know. Without any oversight from council, I feel like we might be shooting ourselves in the foot. I think it's a good idea for planning and variance to come to us and let us know what's going on. And I wouldn't actually be for this. I would not be for this this merge of variance and planning commission unless we had some sort of plan in place that planning commission will come to the council and give us updates as to what's going on. And I know that there might be some legalities in there, but again, this happened for many, many years while I was on planning commission and council. And it was a great opportunity for us to get some heads up onto things that were coming onto our plate.
Well, Kate, I think you're right about the legal aspect of this, because as you know, council is not encouraged to go to planning commission meetings.
No, we're not.
So I
I would
don't
love to.
know about, and we're supposed to be untainted, if you will, when we get the recommendation after planning has hashed that out.
Chuck, I'm actually not really talking about stuff that's going to come to council. I'm talking about things that happen during planning commission, decisions that are made under their domain that we kind of don't know about because they don't actually come to us that they even happened. Do you know what I mean?
What decisions are made? I don't think, since I've been in place, there's not a single action that planning commission has taken that wasn't a recommendation to council. Like council has approved anything that planning commission has worked on, whether it be like a code amendment or a discussion on parking fee in lieu or an FDP or any of that. As far as the code doesn't have any actions that planning commission would take without it being a recommendation to council. Variance board and HPRC do. Right. Variance board is the approving body of variance. And HPRC would be the approving board of the HPRC, and that doesn't go to council, but I don't know what planning commission would just approve that wouldn't then get final approval from council.
Dylan, could it be more of a perception? Does that make any sense? So at the community meeting the other night, how do I say this? I felt like there had been decisions made on a large project that might not have been, that maybe council wasn't privy to. Can I say that without?
I actually don't know which project we're talking about.
Well, I honestly, and again, I could have missed this because of my surgery and things like that, but there's definitely things happening at Argo that, let's just use the parking, for instance. We're going forward with the Argo project. I'll just be very on the table. And to me, we're talking about thousands of people going to be on the top of the whatever the Argo Pavilion, whatever they want to call it, the outpost. And we're talking about thousands of people. When I was on Planning Commission, there was absolutely no way a project would go forward without the approved parking plan in place. And to my knowledge, Argo is breaking ground on a substantially large project. So to me, that to me is an issue, that we don't have a parking plan in place, not only for the bike park, but now for a larger outpost, if you will, on the top of a gondola. And to me, that screams a problem. That's all I'm saying.
There was a parking plan approved as part of the final development plan that was
Yeah.
approved in 2020.
But is it covering the thousands of people that we're talking about? Because I've seen the parking plan and it does not cover, I don't know where the thousands of people are going to park, but the other outpost that I know of is at Keystone, and they literally have thousands of parking spaces for thousands of people. I worked at the outpost in Keystone, so I do know the volume of people that place, held. And if this place is even half the size of that, it's going to be a substantial amount of people, for which I still don't think that we have a parking plan in place. And I don't feel like as a council person, I'm getting this information.
Well, the FDP was approved with an estimate of 400,000 people a year with their parking in place. As part of that, all the parking assessments back at that time, so we wouldn't have to re-review the parking as they're breaking ground now, as long as it stays within the boundaries of what was approved then.
Well, I'm sorry, just to get back to, planning commission and variance, I know we've had a struggle keeping, variance. I think right now, we're at the bare minimum of a quorum. If nobody's sick and nobody's on vacation.
So my question for you would be, having been on planning, and having dealt with variance through another commission, how would you structure that on planning commission? Because that almost feels like we're kind of crossing the streams here a little bit. Variance comes into play, my understanding, is when someone, so Scott comes to one of our commissions, gets a ruling, and the ruling doesn't go the way Scott wants it. So Scott's like, well, you guys are wrong, and they go to variance. And variance, correct me if I'm wrong, variance is where it ends unless they come to city council and say, okay, so I didn't get what I wanted from planning, I didn't get what I wanted from variance, now I'm here at city council. So,
Well,
Am I
I'd like to
misunderstanding
hear
that?
your opinion on this, Dylan, what you feel, if it's crossing the line or if they should even be considered to be joined.
so because the planning commission doesn't take action on any of these chapter 21 or chapter 20 development processes, annexations or COAs or conditional uses or final development plans, ultimately they get approved by someone else. Planning commission is a recommending body. So not like if the planning commission said, hey, we recommend denial of this final development plan, I guess, that they wouldn't be approving it, it would be a recommendation, it would go to council, council denies it, let's say, and then the applicant says, I want to appeal that decision, like a council decision would have to be appealed to courts.
to court.
If, I actually think that example with HPRC should have gone to council instead of to variance
I
court,
fully
but
agree with you.
based on how it's written in the code. So there's no planning, the one area where I think there could be overlap would be if someone is proposing, let's say, commercial structure requires a final development plan. So that commercial structure can't meet code because of an oddly shaped lot or some other reason that they need a variance. They would have to come to the variance board to get a variance from setbacks, let's say, or open space, get that variance approved, and then the final development plan would be reviewed by the same board as a recommending body, which is.
So how did that happen with HPRC? Because I'd be concerned about this, and I will tell you guys that didn't know. HPRC made a decision in 2022, I think. And the applicant who got the decision did not care for the decision, so they went to variance.
I don't know why it did, because section 21.
Would that have gone back to planning then?
Well, section 21-104 of the code, which is certificates of appropriateness, section H1. An application for a building permit denied by COA by the HPRC may be appealed to the city council for review for compliance with the criteria for review and approval. So I don't think it should have gone to variance board at all, unless this was written after that.
Well, the other problem is, and no disrespect to variance board, because these do get sort of convoluted. Variance board made a decision, and the rationale for their decision completely had nothing to do with the reason that HPRC denied this applicant. Like, here's HPRC and they do the denial here, and variance board came back and said, no, this denial should be thrown out for this reason. Like, they were not connected. So I don't know if we're all operating on the same playing field. And my concern is if it went to planning, would they, I don't know, like, would they all be under the same level of understanding? Because variance does something different.
Is there any precedents where other municipalities have these boards combined?
It's permitted under state statutes pretty clearly. I don't actually know of an example.
But you're right, Carmen did look into that for us.
Yeah,
It is
and
possible.
the reason it's coming up today is more, not because the variance board has done anything wrong or has any
Oh, no, I don't
issues, in
think-
my
The-
opinion,
the
it's because
project.
we only have 3 members,
Yeah.
which is the minimum.
Because it can go back and forth, you don't get an answer for 2.5 months, and then your project's held up the whole time.
Yeah, and if we can't get a quorum, someone's sick, like was mentioned, then it just, and if we, and everyone's up for renewal in February, and they might all want to join, but if someone drops, then now we are in a situation where we don't have a quorum and we can't really host a variance board meeting, so. And at the moment, we're missing a seat on planning commission, so it's kind of hard to fill seats, so I agree with Kate that I could do definitely a better job of keeping council availed to things that are going on, and if that's not happening, I apologize, Kate. and
Dylan, this was not an attack on you on any level. It's just something I've noticed in the last couple of years, way before you got here. So not about you at all. I should
But
have
if you-
spoken up sooner.
Sure, and maybe offline, we, I think, can address it and make it better within the bounds of what council's allowed to know and things like that. But I think variance board is a little different because a variance board approval would not go to council for final approval. It's like the HPRC where unless there's an appeal, it'll never get to council. So that is something where it would say, hey, we approved this variance for this, or we approved the variance for that. And it should be a weekly report. You know, we actually have a variance board meeting coming up, but it's the first one of the year and it's the first one since March of 2023. So they don't meet super regularly either.
Well, they meet as necessary, and that's appropriate if we don't have a variance
Right.
request.
And I did talk to Cindy, who's the chair of planning commission, and she was pretty comfortable with taking on the additional duties. I hadn't talked to the entirety of the planning commission. I also haven't talked to variance board. But I do think if variance board is, again, I feel sort of bad taking away from them, who've been pretty good members of the variance board,
They've
but
been pretty,
they could
they've
join
been pretty long-term
planning
too.
commission as well. You know, I would think that could be a great way of,
Filling the vacancy.
Yeah.
right. So I think, you know, at this meeting and, you know, I don't know, I think the only direction was, is this something to look into more and come back and a few, kind of leading up to when we would have to reappoint the variance board. Working on that.
Would everybody be comfortable at looking into this further after consultation with both the variance board and planning?
And Dylan was planning to take this to the planning commission, but
Yeah.
we first wanted to bring it to city council,
Yeah.
just to get direction,
also
see if we
talking to
ought to
them.
pursue it at all, and then we got planning commission coming up the second Wednesday in December.
Right, 11th, and then actually very important, 12th, so I can kind of check off.
That'll be a week.
both boxes.
So you're gonna talk to variance as well about their thoughts on this and if they're gonna reapply for 2025?
Right, I could see if, you know, all 3 members of variance board say, we're committed, we can make it work, you know.
Do they have term limits on variance board?
It's 4 years.
There's not like you wouldn't be termed off, I don't think.
You do have
It's
to
every
be
2 years?
You do have to be
Every 4 years?
reappointed.
Like-
though.
It's like planning. You just get reappointed.
Yeah, so,
I would be okay looking at it. I don't know if this has my support at this point. But I'd be okay looking at it.
Like Carmen is on, she's having some computer issues, so she's just on her phone, but she's on listening. So I'll make sure to work with her on the kind of legal side and process and all that as well, and get some examples of if it's done elsewhere and where and all of that.
Well, and my question would it be like something like when we go from city council to liquor authority? You know, because we also are the liquor
I
authority.
think that could be
And the
a
hats have to
good
change.
analogy, if it were to happen, I think that's a very.
Convenience,
Yeah,
very
exactly.
important.
Yep.
So you keep the streams do not cross.
Mhm.
Right.
All right. Very good. We have the direction that, administration's looking for, so, we'll circle around. We'll come back to this. All right, thank you, everybody. It is 7:20. Go ahead and take 5.
Wait, before we do that, check.
Oh.
Are you ending the meeting?
The work session,
Oh, okay.
did you?
I was on bottom part of the agenda.
The regular meeting.
Okay,
Yeah, so we're about to start that.
Oh, you
Okay,
bet.
sorry,
Well,
yeah.
we'll
Okay,
see you back in a regular meeting here in a few minutes.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And it works.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, it- I thought we had a very reasonable, at least short. Yes.
I think the social company will survey landowner who wants to take the wall. I think that's gonna be.
Because it is.
I'm sorry?
Jimmy's here, do you want me to get in?
I was just waiting for Dylan to come back in. Andy, while we're waiting for Dylan to come back in, right? Oh, there he is. All right, Dylan, so we're ready to go?
Yep.
And, hey, Jamie, come on in, we're gonna start. Thank you, sir.
Now you're asking for me to.
Well, I would like to welcome everybody, to the, November 25th, 2024 regular city council meeting, for, the city of Idaho Springs. We'll call it to order at 7:26. And, like to start off with roll call, please.
Kate Collier,
Here.
Manifold, here, Scott Pennell.
Here.
Jim Clark.
Here.
Janine Mariani. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Here.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Here, all please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We have an agenda before us tonight. Do I have an approval?
I'll move to approve the agenda for the November 25th, 2024 meeting.
Thank you, Janine. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Lisa. Oh, sorry, Kate. You're almost.
It's okay. I can't see and look at the agenda at the same time, so I have no idea what you guys are doing at this point in time.
And Kate, because you're remote, this is actually a good point, I think. I'm gonna go a little bit slower.
It's okay.
On my motions.
I'm on all cylinders this time, Chuck, so I should be a little faster than last time.
Does anyone have any comments on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Does anyone tonight feel they have a conflict of interest?
Chuck, I feel like even though it doesn't affect me directly, I just like to recuse myself from ordinance 18, extended stay.
All right, Scott, I appreciate you bringing that up. And anyone else? All right, hearing none, I'll move on to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the minutes from November 12th, 2024.
Thank you, Kate. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Scott. Any discussion of the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your right hand and signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have bills before us tonight. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve the bills to November 25th of 2024.
Thank you, Jeremy. And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Janine. Any discussion of the bills? I do have one I just wanted to point out because council never sees this. On page 8, there was a bill for $2,798 for restitution. And I did check in with our court clerk today, and she said that was from an incident where there was a dog bite, and that restitution money is coming through the city. I just wanted council to know we're actually not paying for that, but we just never see that. So I had to ask that particular question. All right. Yeah. So, all right, without any further comments about the bills, I would ask for roll call, please.
Kate Collier,
Yes.
Lisa Manifold,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Jim Clark,
Yes.
Janine Mariani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. Next up, we have a public comment. Do we have anybody online?
No.
All right, then, Karen Tierney is, here to talk to us about snow plowing. Karen, welcome, and I want you to know that, there normally is no, back and forth, with council. So I just want you to know it's our time to listen,
Oh,
but, please, you're welcome. Come on up.
should I go there?
Yes, if you can.
Okay, yeah, it may take a minute.
Oh, that's quite all right.
Can she just stay there?
Yeah, or could she?
Could she
just
just-
yeah,
stand at the
Could
podium?
she just stay there?
Yeah, you know what,
Why don't- yeah, why don't- why don't-
I think just in the interest of your comfort, we can make an exception there and,
Yeah.
please, would like to hear what you have to say from there. And,
Okay.
if you're more comfortable being seated, that's
And,
quite all
yeah,
right.
sit if you'd like, but
Oh, thanks.
thank you for standing.
Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Karen, last name is Tierney. I live at 417 15th Avenue.
Thank you.
And I bought this house about 5 years ago. And this house is it's right below Wall Street.
And it's a dead end I'm
Yes.
sorry, normally there isn't back and forth, but I just wanted to confirm for council's perspective that there's a special situation here where that's a dead end.
Yes, and my house is on the left. There's another house on the right, and it looks like it's kind of a fire road or whatever, but it goes straight up towards Wall Street. But anyway, over the years, the snow removal has been dumping the snow right at the end of where my house is. And I had spinal fusion back surgery in January, and I came back to my house about April. And I am having a lot of troubles with balance from the back surgery. And I fell and broke my wrist on my property Labor Day, and then I just broke my ankle. I was trying to take things up to the recycle center. So because of balance issues, I just don't want to trip anymore or fall. So when I noticed in the packets, there was a picture like this that was in everyone's packet. So Wall Street's up here, my house is over here, but snow removal dumps everything right there. And it blocks my stairs. And so sometimes by the time they finish putting the snow up there, I come down the stairs and it's up to my knees. And so there's a tree right next to the bottom stair. And so I have to hold on to the tree, kind of whip around to go down the hill or to go to my car. And so I really don't, I know there's problems with where to put snow, and I'm not asking anybody to find a new place. But what I'm requesting is that if they can't just push the snow, the city properties where all the weeds are. And if they can't just push the snow past my steps so I can get down. So I don't think there's any money involved in. Seems like the most reasonable solution to it. Otherwise, I don't know if we have to find another place, but it's kind of an issue for me.
Karen, I want to thank you for telling council about this. This is, of course, the first time we've heard about this. And I can promise you that we will look into this. And if we can make this situation better, I'm sure that we will. We will talk a bit further in coming meetings. And I want to apologize to you about the delay. Normally, we're very punctual, but things went a little long and we ended up being about 25 minutes late. So thank you for bearing with us.
That's
Thank
not
you.
a problem. Is it true that there is not many places to take the snow to as far as depositing?
I happen to know that can be very challenging, particularly when we're hit with blizzard events.
Oh, yeah.
As you can see, we're very constricted, very, very landlocked community.
The only problem with the snow, which I think I can deal with, it starts to melt, these big mountains of snow start to melt down the hill. So then at night it freezes over and it's just a sheet of ice.
Well, thank you, Karen. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So that will conclude our public comment, and, do we have our finance officer with us tonight?
Do we have?
Oh, okay.
One more. There, we do have, one on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just slide up.
Sorry, I looked just before we started,
No
I didn't
worries.
see on there.
No worries.
Tim, welcome.
Thank you. Tim Hicks, 1528 Wall Street. And so I wanted to thank the city, the council for their time during the working session just a moment ago. I'd like to summarize, the results of that working session on record. First, we'd like to thank you for committing to the paved overlay of West Wall Street to be done at some point next year in 2025. We'd further like to thank you for committing to regular maintenance of the road, including winterization, prior to the winter season coming up very soon. We'd like to further thank you for investigating and repairing the damage of the degraded wall on 15th Street or at 15th Street where it meets the wall. And then we'd also like to thank you for beginning the process of taking ownership of Wall Street or committing to investigating and looking at deeding over that road to the city and finishing the process that began in 1992. We'd further like to thank you for committing to a visual assessment of the wall by an engineer or another individual to determine the extent of any other damage that has yet to be seen. And so thank you so much for your time earlier. Apologies for taking up a good deal of your working session, but truly thank you for the progress forward. We really appreciate that.
Tim, thank you for being with us tonight. I know we all appreciate folks coming in and speaking publicly and giving of their evening. So thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
So we do not have our finance officer tonight. I'd like to move on to resolutions, starting with number 25. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 25, series 2024, resolution repealing existing design review guidelines and adopting new design guidelines for historic structures.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Janine. And any discussion?
I would just like to say, as the chair of HPRC, we've worked on this all year. As it has been commented, this is dry. I know that it's dry. But if you came to HPRC and you wanted to work through something in a historic district or a registered building, the process is so much easier. It tells you step by step what has to be done. Dylan and Maria both went through and took more pictures so that you could better show and demonstrate what we were talking about with examples. It has become a much more user-friendly document. And I think it also encompasses a lot of the challenges that we on HPRC have seen over the last 4 years. I joined HPRC in 2020, and some of the things that we have incorporated in this are direct results of some of this certificate of appropriatenesses that we have seen over the last 4 years. As a personal note, I do think that we're going to have greater interest in our downtown area. I do think we will have people that maybe don't know or understand the importance of a historic district. I know I've had discussions with folks that think the historic districts get in the way of progress, but that's part of our town and like why we are so popular with people. We on HPRC felt like it was really important to preserve that. I think that this tightens up some of our loopholes. We removed a lot of the applicant should to applicant shall. So there's not stretchy gray area where people can move through and do different things. So I do hope we adopt it because a lot of work went into this, a lot of thought, a lot of time. But I think it's a better document for the city. And then I'll leave it to Dylan for anything that I might have missed here.
I don't think I have much else to add. The only thing I'll mention is that in future years, if this gets approved, we will try to adopt a new version more frequently, I think, because this past one has been in place almost unchanged since 2007. And although it's historic preservation and the buildings themselves should not have changed much, I think the literature and the about preservation in general changes slightly more frequently. And certainly the needs and priorities and things in the community change as it becomes more desirable, like.
Or
Lisa
building
says.
materials change too, and the ability to make the building work in 2024, that's 160 years old,
Mhm.
changes from 1992 or 2007.
Right, well, and from 92 to now, there's some emerging technologies that you wouldn't have to think of, roof mounted solar, things like that, who knows in 15 years what the future technologies that people will want to put on these buildings are, and we'll have to contemplate those things. And the only other thing I'll mention is that since the document is pretty big and kind of dry and it can be hard to sift through everything, I'm going to also try to make a website optimized version that allows people to really get exactly what they want, search through it easier, have even more graphics on the website and things like that, and make it more of a interactive tool as well if you don't want to just have the paper document in front of you.
Dylan, thank you. I thought what Lisa said was spot on. Full disclosure, I did 2 stints on HPRC over the last 15 years. We never had anything as clear as this document. This is a tremendous improvement. And I want to thank everybody for working on it. Any further comments on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Kate Collier,
Yes.
Lisa Manifold,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Jim Clark,
Yes.
Janine Mariani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones,
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. All right, we're gonna move to ordinance second reading, and Scott, I'll give you a moment to leave. And somebody will come and get you after we discuss this.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm sorry, I normally have a spiel about our public hearing. And I don't have it with me, but
It's up there.
it is up here?
Yeah. I thought it
Oh,
was-
it's on my other stack.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wonder, for
You're welcome.
saving me.
Sure.
All right. This is a continuation of a public hearing before City Council of the City of Idaho Springs on ordinance number 18, series 2024, an ordinance adopting extended stay lodging, licensing, and operational requirements as a new section 21-35 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code. This continued hearing is now declared to be open again. And it is now 7:42. We're going to start with staff testimony and what updates you have for us since our last hearing. Dylan, do you have any further
Sure.
updates?
And I'll come up to the podium just for formality and whatnot. So, as you mentioned, this is a continuation from October or November, or actually September 24th, when we had second reading of this and went through the process. Since that time, or at the last meeting, as everyone council calls, we requested a joint work session with Planning Commission. That was on November 12th. I thought that was a pretty fruitful discussion. There was a few changes that came out of it, as well as a few clarifications that aren't reflected in the ordinance, but were clarified in that work session. For example, what this would apply to, specifically extended stay lodging is proposed to be defined as the renting of a room unit or other portion of a hotel or motel for a duration of stay greater than 29 consecutive days. The key word being hotel or motel, which Nick mentioned in the work session, was commercial building or buildings intended or designed to be used, rented, or hired out to be occupied for transient purposes. It goes on, and then it says motel and hotels contain lobbies for guest check-in and on-site maintenance and management. So at the previous second read, there was some confusion and lack of clarity about, well, does it apply to certain units and certain spaces? And there's probably a few properties that this clarification is relevant for. So that's a clarification that came out of that meeting. The other big change was about, there's no changes to the minimum standards. It would still require, everything as listed in the memo, the licensing program that would need to be followed, labeling the rooms, having 24-hour desk staffing, having certain, laundry facilities and storage, and then having either communal or individual kitchens for these units. The big change is with the compliance timeline. Originally, it had proposed that everyone would have to apply by January 1st, 2025.
What are you doing? Sorry.
And be in compliance by March 1st. Now, at the council and planning commission joint work session, we determined that it should be pushed along the timeline slightly to give people more time to comply. And what was talked about was a January 1st application deadline still, but compliance timeline being July 1st with the opportunity to extend that for due cause. And so that would be if you have to get a building permit for something or make improvements, can't get it done by July 1st. Administratively, we could give an extension. So we had written that in as a change, and then Carmen and our legal staff questioned whether January 1st is really a reasonable timeline to roll everything out with the Thanksgiving holiday and with the Christmas holiday and all of that. You know, we'd only have about a month to get everything on our end rolled out, get it to the operators, to let them know of the changes, have them apply, and get all the things we need. So she recommended, and it's reflected in the ordinance, that the application deadline would be February 28th, and the compliance deadline would still be July 1st or December 31st. With the caveat that I would still plan, if this were to be approved, to send out notification to operators and post it to say, hey, this ordinance is passed. Would you be aware that these changes will be needed? Also functionally, since an ordinance has to post for 30 days before it's active, is that correct?
Correct.
If this was approved tonight, the ordinance wouldn't even be in effect until December 25th, which means that officially there'd only be 6 days to comply with the ordinance. So that was the only, so those are all the changes from the original second reading. But I did note one change from the joint work session as well. So I think that's it for me, unless anyone has any specific questions.
All right, any questions for Dylan? Yeah,
So they, sorry, Dylan, so it's gonna implicate they can't have like 30-day term.
So you essentially have one of two options. If you're, let's say that you own a hotel or motel and you don't have any 30+ day stays right now. Great, you're in compliance with our hotel definitions. But 2 years from now, you say, actually, you know, our business model's changed. We want to now rent out 4 of our rooms for long-term leases. You could do that if you get a license through this proposed ordinance. Now, let's say, and then you'd have to, you know, do some upgrades to make sure it meets all the requirements. Let's say that there's a hotel or motel that offers short-term stays now that also offers long-term stays. And historically, that hasn't been allowed per code because a hotel or motel is meant to be rented per our definitions for less than 30 days as it stands now. So if you're a hotel operator and you are renting for more than 30 days, it's never been enforced, but in theory, you've been out of compliance with how a hotel and motel is meant to operate under our codes. So this would be a way for you to continue operating the same way you have with either all long-term stays or a mixture of both, but be code compliant and meet the requirements to be able to do so without actually having to upgrade your units into full-on dwelling units. And so that's it's trying to achieve two things. One is to get these folks a path towards compliance where the city isn't either like turning a blind eye to a situation that doesn't really meet code, but we know is happening, or alternatively doing enforcement on spaces that don't meet code and have unsafe, don't meet fire code or don't meet building code and are causing these unsafe living conditions. The other thing that it means to address is to make sure that folks who, for one reason or another, live in a hotel unit long-term have the basic standards of living, like access to a kitchen sink, for example, or something like that, which hotel rooms typically only have a bathroom sink. So if you're living in that unit and you don't have access to like a communal kitchen of some kind, sink and a cooking appliance and that, you might be doing your dishes every night in a bathroom sink, which planning commission had said, well, if we're getting folks into compliance with a code compliant way of operating, there should be some basic standards in place as well to make sure that folks meet these basics.
So you could have one communal kitchen instead of having to upgrade every single unit to have a kitchen.
Right, because.
Which might not even be practical because you didn't have room to do
Right.
something like that.
And then the other potential, because if you said, hey, I have a hotel now, I don't want to be a hotel anymore. I want to do a change of use and be just long-term residences now. You could do that, but you run into some issues of, the dwelling unit has to have a kitchen per definitions. Also, there are minimum dwelling unit sizes. So like a multifamily housing unit is supposed to be 400 square feet. There's not that many hotel rooms that are 400 square feet. Some of them are, some aren't. So you'd have to go through a variance process, all this, and you'd have to bring it up to residential code and all of that. Whereas this ordinance also helps to say, we're giving you some more hoops to jump through with a license and annual inspections, but you don't have to convert this to full dwelling units and meet residential building code and all this. It's kind of a alternative method of compliance for folks who wish to do this. And if you don't wish to do it in your hotel and you're doing it now, I guess you just have to go back to just renting for 29 days or less to folks staying. So I think the big, as we talked about in the joint work session, the big expense, I guess, of this is if you don't have some sort of shared kitchen facility now, you didn't historically have like a commercial kitchen as part of your business or restaurant or a continental breakfast area, you'll probably have to get a building permit to make those changes, and that's a cost to an operator, but it's also making things safer for the operation and for people living in those units is the idea behind it.
All right. Any further questions for Dylan? Dylan, thank you. It's time for me to move to the public. Has anyone signed up or online to speak to this?
I don't see anyone online. I only see Carmen and Clark, who is a later item for the.
I understand. Okay. All right. With that in mind, if anyone has nothing further, I'm going to close the hearing. It is 7:53. And council, time for discussion. I personally found this to be very reasonable. I'm glad the dates were updated to February 28th. It's not too onerous. And yet we still have a reasonable compliance date this summer. And of course, there's the option of going to December 31st if someone has a good reason, like they couldn't get a contractor, they had signed up and the contractor's delayed or something like that. It seems like we're trying to work with these people and not against them. Any thoughts on this? Anything further?
I think this is a good ordinance. I think we give people plenty of time to get in compliance. Full disclosure, I am a small landlord and I have standards that people like basic habitability standards. These are basic habitability standards. If you own a hotel that you've turned into long-term extended living, people deserve basic habitability. I think this is long overdue.
Well, Kent Slaymaker made an excellent comment when we had our joint work session, and that was the city sets the bar. And I think this is a very reasonable meeting in the middle, where at least they have access to a community kitchen.
Well, there's limits on how many people can be in one space.
Oh, right.
Because they're not there right now. And So people are living in, you know, a bunk bed space. That's not real proper habitability.
All right, anything further before I ask, for a motion? All right, do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve ordinance number 18, series 2024, an ordinance adopting extended stay lodging licensing and operational requirements as a new section 21-35 of the Idaho Springs Municipal Code.
Thank you, Janine. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, second from Lisa. And any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Kate Collier,
Yes.
Lisa Manifold,
Yes.
Jim Clark,
No.
Janine Mariani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. All right, thank you. I'm gonna take a moment. Annie's gonna get Scott. Scott, welcome back. We're gonna move on to ordinance number 21. And do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 21, series 2024, an ordinance vacating a portion of the alleyway between lot 1 of block 57, former Gold Digger Field subdivision, and block 55 of the city of Idaho Springs, Colorado.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I have a second?
No, second.
Second from Scott. And any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Kate Collier,
Yes.
Lisa Manifold,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Jim Clark,
Yes.
Janine Mariani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes, and apologies, our city attorney is online with us tonight. She's been having some technical difficulty. I would just like to check in. I don't know if she has the capability, but if she had anything further to share with us tonight.
She sent me a text message and said that when it comes to her, just to tell you all, hi and happy Thanksgiving.
All right, well, happy Thanksgiving to you, Carmen, and thank you very much for being with us tonight. Andy, you're next up. We have no request for action from you, but just wanted to see if you had anything further to share with us tonight.
The big news is we've hired an assistant city administrator. His name is Guy Anderson, or Guy, Patterson. And you have a news release at your table. We wanted to make sure that council heard about this appointment first here before we share the news beyond council. So we wanted to make sure that you got this information. And we received 27 applications.
Wow.
And I did a first round of interviews with the top 10. One person dropped out, so I interviewed 9. And then we invited, and that was over Zoom. And then we invited 4 to interview in person with a panel that was comprised of the mayor, me, and our new director of business promotion and vitality, Sadie Schultz. So he will be starting on December 9th, which is our next council meeting. So he will be, we'll start him out with a council meeting. You'll be able to meet him in person. And we're very pleased to have him on board. He has quite a bit of experience with not only with other municipalities, but also has some county experience and district experience. So he's got quite a bit of experience, and very much look forward to working with him.
Yeah, Andy, I would just pile on by saying, in my years of interviewing people for positions, I have never had a decision this easy to make. He knocked it out of the park. We are getting a former city administrator and county administrator, and it is very difficult to find someone with his level of experience. And I don't mind confessing to you, without knowing that we were going to have 27 applicants, I was sweating getting someone that could hit the ground running and be very effective like Jonathan Kane was. I felt with his departure that significantly lessened our ability to take on particularly additional projects or what I call bandwidth. And I'm going to revisit that under the mayor's section here in a little bit, because I think he is exactly what we were looking for. I could not be more pleased. And I felt that he was a real standout in the interview process. So anyways, thank you, Andy. Anything further to share with us tonight?
Just happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
All right, happy Thanksgiving.
Andy, will you send me forward what you have presented to the other council members? Will
Yes,
you
I
email
will.
me? Thank you.
Yes, it's a news release, but I will get it to you, Kate.
Cool, thank you.
Dylan, did you have anything further to share with us tonight?
Nothing else for me.
All right, thank you. Wonder, anything further?
No, Mayor.
All right, well, thank you very much. And Chief, got your report, action packed as usual. Anything further to share with us tonight?
No, Mayor.
All right, well, thank you. Public Works, Paul, thank you for your report, and we do have one request for action as we had discussed earlier in the work session. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve a reimbursement to Mountain West Contractors to replace sewer services for addresses in the 1000 block of Minor Street as they relate to the sewer main upgrade for the field house project in the amount of $24,000 from line item 52-74-7420.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Jeremy. And any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Kate Collier,
Yes.
Manifold,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Jim Clark,
Yes.
Janine Mariani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck.
Yes. Paul, anything further to share with us tonight?
I do not. We figured out that propane is very necessary in the winter because we ran out of propane sometime over the weekend.
Oh.
At the new shop and the digester building, so we had a little emergency today trying to get propane up there, get that filled, get everything restarted.
Well, thank you. I've been there, bleeding out the system, trying to get the air out of the lines and get propane back up there.
I
Yeah.
didn't know whether I was gonna be hungry or hurl
Huh.
after bleeding those lines.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much. Ed, next up, good report. Wanted to see if you had anything further to share with us tonight.
No, thank you, Mayor.
All right. Well, thank you, Ed. We have a letter of interest, under, mayor and council. I have two things. One is this letter of interest, for appointment to HPRC. Boy, that sure looked like a good resume to me. What council think?
We heard a rumor in HPRC about this, and I'm pretty excited with the experience and the background that this person has. I think any historic preservation is its own bag of chaos sometimes. And so to have this somebody like this who's interested in working with us, I'm pretty excited.
Lisa, I couldn't have said better myself. This was just exceptional. An exceptional individual that has applied. I think as many of you know, you actually do not have to be a resident to be on HPRC. And this gentleman's address is listed in Denver. And what a great body of work. His name is Carl Strickland. Oh, I'm sorry, Clark Strickland. And if there's no further discussion, I'm going to make the motion.
I do have him on Zoom.
Why, thank you, Clark. Thank you for listening to us talk behind your back to your face. Anyways, welcome, and I want to thank you for applying. This is a most impressive background.
Well, thank you. I look forward to working with a group of people who've come up with such wonderful design guidelines tailored to their local community. You've got a great place there. I look forward to coming up and spending some time.
All right. Well, we certainly look forward to having you. I'd like to make it official, and I would like to make the motion that Clark Strickland be brought in to be on the board of HPRC. And we very much look forward to his coming on and having his great body of experience. Do I have a second? Second from Janine. And any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Kate Collier,
Yes.
Manifold,
Yes.
Scott Pennell,
Yes.
Jim Clark,
Yes.
Janine Mariani,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Jeremy Jones.
Yes.
Mayor Chuck Harmon.
Yes. Clark, welcome, and thank you so much for willing to be part of this.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, thank you. I look forward to it.
Good. The last item that I have really is short notice, and I'm bringing it up because we're not going to take official action on this tonight. Depending on how council feels, we will take official action at a very up and coming meeting. Mount Blue Sky has been a very important thing for us, both historically and economically. I think everybody here knows more than 80% of the visitors to our community and the county at large are here to recreate.
400,000 on average.
Did you say 400,000?
That's from the visitors, yeah, that's from the visitor center. The requests that they get average 400,000 a year for Mount Blue Sky.
All right, well, that is just to emphasize how important that is and why we're understandably concerned with Mount Blue Sky being closed next year as they rebuild the road going up. So our Commissioner Randy Wheelock has been working, and it's very interesting. He's been working with a lot of people on this particular grant, including the tribes. And I believe it is Ute, Arapaho, and I am forgetting the third.
Isn't it Ute and Southern Ute?
Well, I
thought it was two different tribes.
I don't think they broke this out in his breakdown. But I apologize because it very well may be Arapaho. I think it is Arapaho actually. But he's also been working with the Forest Service, Denver Mountain Parks, because they have about 14,000 acres in this scenic byway. And it goes a total of, it's about 49 miles. So it's a long, quite a long stretch. But he has applied for a grant that's going to come in somewhere between $1 million and $1.5 million. And we very much are at a center point because, as probably a lot of you know, we actually kick off the scenic byway at our visitor center. And it was probably a dozen years ago, all of that exterior signage that's done with those sun fade resistant photos and lettering that sits there and bakes in the sun all day, and you can't tell if it's a year old or 20 years old. They paid for all of that. And just to give you a kind of a yardstick to measure by, that was like 20 grand 12 years ago. And we've all seen how everything is more than doubled, if not more, in 12 years. But I bring that up because the plan for this $1 million to $1.5 million is pretty impressive. They want to, of course, they're going to have to redo that signage as the name Mount Blue Sky is going to take the place of Mount Evans. And they also want to improve the interpretation all the way through the entire roadway system. And they want to have, for the first time, and I think that this is something that not only is culturally sensitive, but probably 100+ years overdue. They're going to have some interpretation from the Native American perspective. So too often history starts with when, like the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock, right? That seems like American history day one, when in fact we had indigenous people here for thousands of years. So we are but a very, short part of history. So, this signage is going to take that into account. And, the different tribes are even being helped financially. There's some travel time and administrative time. There's $50,000 in the grant to help reimburse them for their time. This is not one of those grants that comes with their hat in their hand. I believe they are not trying to be a burden on a community. They have set aside 20% of the grant for administrative fees. So in the average of $1.25 million, this is going to be somewhere around $250,000 set aside for administrative fees. Now I bring this up for this reason. Earlier I was talking about bandwidth. And we just recently were discussing the press release of who we hired for the assistant city administrator. I think this gives us additional bandwidth. Normally, we wouldn't be worried about it, but the county does not, they don't know at this point if they're going to have the bandwidth to take on this grant, which would be very unfortunate because it's a lot of money. And it's something that would improve our entire community, not just the city of Idaho Springs. But I've discussed this with Andy, and it is probably something that we should look at, since this does come with a couple $100,000 to help administer this grant. I think, you know, if you run the numbers, we could frankly hire somebody to work this 20 hours a week for several years. I could see us being the agent on this if council was willing. They're asking for various stakeholders to put money in as match, but it is a relatively inconsequential grant match. In our case, like I said, we got about $20,000 worth of signage 12 years ago. And this is not only going to replace the signage, but they're also going to have more displays in our museum. And it's going to do things like widen the pull-offs so people can get out and not only take in the views, but read the signage in a safe manner, because they recognize that we do have very insufficient pull-offs. Some of those date back to, they're even historic. Some of those pull-offs date back to like the 1930s and earlier days of road travel. And anyway, so this is where the $1.25 million is going. I think it's a very important aspect of our economy. And they've asked for the city to put in between 10 and 20,000. And that's if we do not administer the grant, if we're not the agent on this and the county takes it. If the county does not take it, I think that it would behoove us to at least look at being the agent and accepting the 20% of the grant that's being set aside for the management of this. Lisa, you had a question?
I did. Where, he said he's been working on this. Where is the county in the grant process? Have they applied?
They have submitted it.
Is there room, if they are awarded the grant, that they can assign us as the agent?
Yeah, I actually read, and you could fill in the blank who your agent is. I think would probably have to really stretch to get to where, you know, would be turned down. And I don't think the city, especially with us being the start of the byway, I think we would be a natural. Andy, any thoughts on the agent aspect?
No, I agree, Mayor, particularly with the funding that can come with that, with us being the fiscal agent.
What would you say, can you make a guesstimate on what you would say the county's willingness to have us be the agent?
I can't.
Okay.
Because they have reached out to us.
Okay.
And they would be relieved if they at least, and I am saying the very least, had a reasonable alternative should they not be able to have the bandwidth for this grant. As you know, they are suffering multi-million-dollar setbacks in their budget. They will not be hiring or having the numbers next year that they've had this year. So it's a very real concern with being able to have a more balanced a financial sheet. And I think that they would be very supportive if they're not able to administer it, that we become the agent.
And would this require an IGA or an MOU between us and them?
I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
Yeah.
It'd just be part of the grant document.
Yeah, and you know, prior to us hiring Guy, I would have had serious worries. But especially being a real veteran in the trenches of things just like this. I personally have every reason to believe that he would be somebody that could absolutely help with this. And I think that there's sufficient money set aside for the administration that they're not trying to be a burden on any particular municipality or county.
And we feel comfortable going into an arrangement like this, where we're looking as an agent for somebody else who is the grantee.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. You know, all that signage I was saying it was about 20 grand 12 years ago. That was because the Historical Society of Idaho Springs was actually the ones that administered the grant. It wasn't as large as this, but one thing that they got out of it, not only were they essentially the kickoff point for the scenic byways, but they had the room and all of a sudden found themselves with all these outdoor displays. So it really worked out extremely well for them, even though this was not their per se. But they managed it, they did very well, albeit they have a very short staff. But I think I have actually recently talked to Jan, president of the Historical Society, about this, and she would have done it again in a heartbeat.
Okay.
Anyways, I wanted council weigh in. Jeremy, how would you feel if we move forward on this?
I think it makes sense. I think we reached a point where we have to work together, right, with the county and make things work. None of us have all the bandwidth we need, so.
Thank you, Jeremy. Janine, your thoughts?
Yeah, it seems like a good opportunity.
All right. Jimmy, what do you think?
Yeah, all sounds good. I'm still upset they changed the names of that. I grew up over there.
Oh, I understand.
So,
Scott, your
Yeah.
feelings?
I think it'd be a good idea.
All right. And Lisa?
I think it's a good idea. I just, my concern fell more on the administrative side, but I think if we were offered it and we have no administrative problems, we would be stupid to say no. Seriously.
All right. Kate, what do you think?
I think it's great. I think it's nice to embrace that actual ancient history that we've never really acknowledged before.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and just say, this is the first that I've ever heard about in the state of Colorado that frankly, you know, has done the right thing. We're gonna redo all this signage. Let's make it right.
Right. I agree. I look forward to it. I think that there's a lot of historical significance up there that we haven't really been educated on. So I'm looking forward to reading them myself.
All right. Very good. Well, I am gonna share this with Randy. Randy Wheelock, who's been doing a lot of the work on this, and the other commissioners, just to know the sentiment of the Idaho Springs Council. And depending on what the county does, we will take appropriate action in the future. But I wanted to get the feelings in the room before we go any further. So thank you very much. Does anyone have anything else for the good of the order before we adjourn? Yes.
The only other thing I'd ask for direction on with regard to the grant is they were also asking for a letter of support.
Oh.
So
thank you.
If we could get just direction from council to go ahead and prepare a letter.
Yes, I am remiss in my duties. Would everybody be for a letter of support for this?
Absolutely.
All right, I thought that would be unanimous. Scott, okay. All All right, Andy, and Kate, I'm sorry, letter of support? Okay, all right, so it is unanimous, thank you. And, I would just, like to remind everybody, the last thing in our packet is our next work session is December 9th. And our next regular meeting is December the 9th. I look forward to seeing everybody then. Before I adjourn, anybody have anything else? All right, we're gonna call it adjourned at 8:19. Thank you.
Right.